At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
All right, here we are on the heels of course, Giving Tuesday. Great success. I know that they raised a lot of money. And of course, one of the organizations I work with, of course, as a board member for Kids Turn, very grateful that we were able to raise over $11,000. So very grateful for that. And of course, there are many other organizations that saw a lot more than that. And just a great success all around. And if you're still in that giving spirit, there are other great organizations that want your help as well. It's at Ted Blankenheim's 21st annual bike drive, otherwise known as Bikes for Kids. You may have heard of the program before. It's buy a brand new bike for a kid, right? And you can drop it off at several different locations. There you can see all the donation locations and sponsors. Starbucks on Churn Creek, Budget Blinds in East Reading, Youth and Family Programs, AAA Mission de Oro Drive, Dill's Deli on Caterpillar Road, Wheelman Club of Reading, and of course, if you have any questions, you can contact Valerie or Ted. You got the phone numbers on your screen right there. You know, this is really a great program too. Who remembers, I mean, what would childhood be? Remember your childhood? Your bike. For me, my world revolved around my bike. My bike was my car, right? And it was just, I can't imagine not having a bike. So this helps really brighten the spirits of those kids. Great program. Be sure to check that one out. All right, hey, let's take a look at this. This is actually from a couple of days ago. Tracy Sackett sent this image from Alturas. If you've been lucky and fortunate enough to be outside during sunset the last few evenings, this is what you were greeted with. I mean, look at this. Absolutely gorgeous. There were some clouds in Alturas that helped to create some beautiful sunset. Saw some in the Reading area as well. Not only two evenings ago, but even yesterday evening, a beautiful, beautiful sunset. By the way, if you want to share your photos of sunset, sunrise, whatever, share them from the free Weather NorCal app. You can do it on your iPhone and also on your Android. Be sure to check that out. And we can share them with you right here on Coffee with Krueger and even on the morning update at 6 a.m. All right, visibility has improved, especially in the valley, just because the winds are picking up, although there are still some wind-sheltered areas, especially down to the south and east near Chico. There may be a little bit of fog there. And there's also been some fog in Trinity County down to as low as a quarter mile in some cases. So still some dense fog for some of those mountain valleys, even in parts of Siskiyou County as well, seeing some of the lower visibility. But again, I was mentioning those winds are picking up, and that's what's really help preventing some of that fog from developing. So there you can see Sundial Bridge Drive on Highway 44. No fog, even over where you're seeing a body of water. Red Bluff looks like things are A-OK there. Now, if we look at Chico, you look off in the distance, there you can see a little bit of that haze from some minor fog that we are seeing out in Glen and even Butte County. So it's just some of that left over. Again, the winds are going to prevent that from really getting too dense, but some areas are still seeing some of that. Frost advisory expires at 9 o'clock this morning for Humboldt County. Also a coastal flood advisory. We're talking king tides. Now, the king tides are really not taking full effect until the next couple of days. However, we're already beginning to feel the impacts today with a flood advisory, coastal flood advisory for central and northern Humboldt County. A lot of the low-lying areas that you typically see during these advisories, those are the areas that will most likely see some flooding. So just be aware of that as we go through the morning hours. All right, here's a look at your Krueger's Quickcast. On your Wednesday, December 3rd, I already got some people, Jeff Johnson, saying, wasn't the evening sky amazing yesterday? Absolutely, I agree with you. Of course, Ruth Sanchez saying good morning as well. So look at the temperatures. 52 for Reading. The winds have actually been gusting out at the airport already over 20 miles per hour in some spots. But Chico, calmer winds. And what happens? Well, there's not anything mixing up the atmosphere, so as a result, temperatures are able to drop. So much cooler on the east side of the valley, but for, say, the west side of the valley and, say, central part of the valley, still seeing some pretty gusty winds this morning. Look at the Reading Airport, 16 miles per hour. Look at Chico, 4 miles per hour. That's what I was talking about. So when you have those winds blowing, not only does it scour out any fog, but it also warms the temperature up a bit. It kind of mixes the atmosphere around. But you'll notice very calm winds elsewhere in the mountains, and that's why we're seeing that fog in many of those mountain valleys. Trinity County, Siskiyou County seeing that fog as well. And not as cold in some spots, like the valley, for example. Of course, we saw that. But by 8 a.m., we're talking 43 degrees in the valley. There you can see low 20s for Modoc County and upper 20s for the Eastern Mountains. Bill Roberts, Sr., I see your post. You are welcome. I love doing this. I'm so happy to be here for you all. All right, so let's take a look at that satellite image. And you've got the cold front off to our north and west. But another thing I want to point out is the ridge of high pressure. Now, typically when we're talking about a ridge of high pressure, what does that mean? Usually sunny skies and warmer temperatures. Not this case. This is what is known as a dirty ridge. On the flow around that area of high pressure, we are seeing those clouds spill over into Northern California, and that's giving us the partly to mostly cloudy skies. So let's talk about the winds. They're going to be a little gusty this morning. I think they'll be strongest through the morning hours, and then by the afternoon, they should start to subside. But still breezy. Still breezy even going into this evening and tonight. And that, again, is going to prevent much in the way of fog developing, at least for the valley. I want to show you this. Now, you look at this, you go 20% chance, 10%. All right, these percentages, all right, I can explain exactly what they mean, but it's one of those things where you just keep beating a dead horse. You can't really explain it, and it doesn't usually stick. But what this is showing is that there is some rain in our vicinity. Let's put it that way, especially over the Pacific Northwest. Some of those systems may just clip Northern California, giving us at least a chance for some showers, and maybe even as early as Friday, especially to the north. But even parts of Redding can't rule out a sprinkle, which we'll get into that in the deeper dive forecast here in a bit. All right, there's a look at your forecast for today. We're going to see some clouds. I don't think we're going to clear out entirely, but I think we're going to start off with more clouds this morning and then some clearing by the afternoon. But otherwise, that nip is still going to be in the air, folks, in the valley. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, even in the late morning hours and the sun is out, you kind of need that coat, at least for me. And I'm like, man, I had my pea coat on yesterday. I was outside. It just felt kind of chilly out there. And that's essentially what we've got. We've got a bit of that chilly fall air. Now tonight, cold. As the winds do die down, we're talking 36 for Redding, 39 for Chico, teens, 20s off to the north and east, upper 30s, low 40s tonight for the coast. Now the 7-day forecast, don't have any rain for you in the valley. Saturday is the day we're going to have to watch, though, because places like Redding, maybe Red Bluff, a sprinkle, not out of the question. But again, we'll get into that in a little bit more detail in just a bit. Now you see chance, you see some rain on Saturday, you see another chance Sunday, another chance Tuesday, right? Kind of confusing. But again, what we have are a series of storms moving through the Pacific Northwest to our north. Some of those just may clip Northern California. And that's why places like the North Coast, Siskiyou County, Trinity County, Modoc County, have a chance at least for something. Anything to write home about? Most likely not. Even Saturday, which is the best chance for measurable rainfall. All right, that's a look at your Krueger's Quickcast. Let's take a look at some of the cameras out there. And there you can see the sun kind of filter through some of those high and even a few mid-level clouds out at Lake Oroville. This is looking out at Lake Oroville, North Forebay. And what we're seeing here is a little bit of that breeze. You see that windsock there? Yeah, it's showing the wind. And we've got that wind over the lake. You can see the trees blowing in the wind as well. So no fog as a result, right? Now Main Street Chico, if you look at the trees, I'm not seeing those leaves rustling around at all. And if you look off in the distance there, you can see a little bit of haze. Now that is some very light fog trying to develop, but there's just enough of a breeze kind of scouring that out. You can see here on Highway 99 at Neal Road, no fog to really see there as well. But, you know, we go in the higher levels of the atmosphere, mid and high level clouds are certainly out there. And there's a look at Highway 44, Sundial Bridge Drive in the Redding area. Not a bad morning. I'll take a look at Crescent City this morning. Looks like we do have some clouds out there, but you'll notice no rain, no mist, nothing, no fog. This is where we're going to be talking about those king tides, by the way, on the coast. And there's that coastal flood advisory I told you about. So this is something we'll have to be on the lookout for as we go into the next few days. All right, let's talk about Bald Hill West. Just kind of right there within that low-level cloud. And if we look at Soda Ridge, it's looking down usually at Hoopa Valley. Doesn't look like that's the case here this morning. Turning out to be a... Oh, no. That was Bald Hill West. Soda Ridge is usually what's looking at Mount Shasta. This is actually Fort Jones. The last few mornings, in fact, all week this morning, we've seen fog socked in Scott Valley. Not the case this morning. But it does look like we have some of those high, mid-level clouds filtering through. It's coming on the front side of that ridge of high pressure. There's Lassen Park, 640 this morning. Yeah, that's the latest. Usually it's color by now, but just still a little too dark. So it's in that dark mode. Still some snow on the ground. It's going to be that crunch. You're walking on that snow. You can just kind of hear the crunch under your feet. Hey, today is Wednesday. We've got our Grange Co-op Spotlight. And this week, we are going to talk about, they got great feed for your livestock and for any animals that you may have on your farm or your ranch or whatever. But they actually make their own food for all kinds of animals. So let's check it out. Hello everyone, I'm Mike Krueger from Weather NorCal. You're watching Grange Co-op Spotlight. With me right now, I've got Joey, and we talked about feed last time when I was talking with you, but you guys actually make your own feed here, right?
Yeah, we do.
How does that work? So what you got here?
So right here, these red bags are actually our organic bags. Behind Mike here is our regular bags.
Okay.
This is our road feed. We have our own mill down in Oregon, and we mill it all fresh. It never sits in a warehouse. Actually, it gets shipped down here immediately.
Okay, so I mean, we're talking fresh ingredients
Yeah.
here. So what, you said this kind of spread throughout the store here. So this is for what kind of animal?
This is specifically our chicken section right here,
Okay.
our poultry. But the further you go down, I mean, we have hog feed, goat feed, horse feed, cattle. We've got all sorts of things.
So really any kind of food that animals need, they can get name brands, but they can also get brands from you as well.
Right.
Like okay, so that sounds great. So you can find that here at Grange Co-op here in Reading. So be sure to come on by and check out some of the great, not only regular, but organic. That's the organic, the red
Yeah.
bags, right? And then the regular is the orange. So yeah, be sure to come on by here to Grange Co-op and they'll be sure to hook you up with some really great food for your animals. All right, once again, I want to thank Grange Co-op for sponsoring that segment and being a sponsor in general. They sponsor the animal family segment. So, as you know, we've got Pet of the Week. They sponsor that. As you know, we've got Turtle Bay Wonderful World of Animals. They are the sponsor of that. And, of course, we got this Grange Co-op Spotlight, really kind of highlighting the great store that just recently opened up in the Reading area. And, of course, they're centered in kind of the headquartered, if you will, in Southern Oregon, which is kind of where their roots are. And for those of you that have been up there before the store in Reading opened, I know there were a lot of people that were going up there saying, hey, you need one in Reading. And they listened. And now we got the Grange Co-op in Reading. Got a couple other people checking in this morning. We have got, let's see here, Lisa Strickland is saying good morning, Mike. We've got Tim Moore. Look at this. He's saying, Weather NorCal, a cold 17 degrees this morning. Whoo, yeah, I'd say that's pretty cold. We've also got Curtis Brown where he's saying that the winds are around 6 miles per hour for now. So yeah, not everyone's seeing those strong winds right now. I do know that the Reading Airport did see a peak gust of around 21 miles per hour this morning. I think we're going to kind of see that kind of kick in some spots here. We've also got Kenny Elwood. Hey, how you doing? Hey, great walk yesterday. Loved what you're doing. Love your vision. Love what's going on. We're going to have to talk more. We got a few things I want to tell you about here at Weather NorCal that I'd love to see if you want to be a part of. But anyway, pretty windy in Bella Vista. Whoo, I bet. Maybe the cattle, maybe not too happy about that. Pretty cold. There's going to be a bit of maybe that wind chill. You know, we don't talk about wind chill here very often, but when you've got the winds and cold air, that can make it actually feel colder than it actually is. So there's probably going to be an extra nip in that air this morning. We've also got Bill Roberts Sr. saying good morning and thanks for what you do. Again, I appreciate the kind words. We've got Jeff Johnson saying good morning, Mike. Saying, wasn't the evening sky amazing yesterday? Absolutely. I was actually inside watching TV and I was looking, I could see out the window and I could see like this orange, reddish, pinkish glow outside. I'm like, what is that? So I stepped outside and I'm like, wow, absolutely amazing. I took a photo of it, but I should have shared it with you all. It's just gorgeous. But I mean, you probably all saw it. Ruth Sanchez also saying, good morning this morning. Well, good morning to you. Good morning to everybody. What do you say we get into the headlines? And speaking of beautiful sunrises or sunsets, this is actually from a couple evenings ago. I don't want to say morning. Gorgeous, right? This is from Tracy Sackett and Alturas. So it's not just in the valley that's been seeing it here, but it's been pretty much everywhere else, right? So you can share your photos just like Tracy did from the free Weather NorCal app on your iPhone and your Android. All right, so North winds, they're picking up. We're already noticing that in some spots here. We got some frost in some areas. It's pretty cold this morning in some areas, especially wind-sheltered areas. Now, there is a chance for showers. I've been talking about this week so far as we go into the weekend. And I'm beginning to see and feel a little bit more confidence that we actually may see some measurable rain, especially for the north coast and parts of, say, Siskiyou County. But it's not going to be a lot. But then going through next week, long range, I'm still not seeing a lot of rainfall. Most of the rain is up to our north, not only with this upcoming weekend storm, but next week we've got a series of storms moving through the Pacific Northwest and just clipping Northern California again. So I just don't see anything all that significant heading our way. So let's talk about all of that and get into our deeper dive forecast. But first, a word from our sponsor for the deep dive forecast, Shasta Hearing Aids.
Frank, come help with the dishes.
What?
The dishes!
I heard it the first time. I just got back from Shasta Hearing Aids, but she doesn't know it yet. What?
Forget it.
All right, so we take a look at the temperatures out there right now. And you take a look at Redding and you see Chico, and you're like, what, is that a typo? No, it's not. The winds are a little more gusty on the north and west side of the valley, although we do have confirmation that the winds aren't all that strong west of Red Bluff right now, so it just depends on where you are. But winds I know are blowing right now at the Redding Airport. I've seen gusts over 20 miles per hour earlier this morning. That mixes up the atmosphere. Think of a glass of water, okay? When you have cold and warm water in it and it's just still. The warm water is on top, right? And the cooler air is at the bottom. So we're where the cooler air is, right? But then you take a spoon and mix it up, and now it's not as cold, right? Same general concept here with the atmosphere, the air. The wind mixes things up, and that prevents us from cooling off a whole lot. However, the still air, the calm air, is keeping it fairly cold in Chico this morning, 37 degrees. And that's also one of the reasons why we may be looking at a little bit of light minor fog, just a slight reduce in the visibility, but nothing major. 21 Alturas, 22 degrees out in Susanville, although I did see that report of 17 degrees. So yeah, some of you are seeing temperatures in the teens. It's cold this morning in some spots, upper 30s for Eureka, upper 40s for Crescent City. So we talk about the wind speeds. Look at Redding, 16 miles per hour as of right now. Chico, 6 miles per hour. That's why we're seeing the big discrepancy in those temperatures. Should be a bit warmer out in Willows too, at about 16 miles per hour right there. And look at the calm winds in the mountains. There actually is some pretty dense fog in some areas here. We've seen quarter-mile visibility, quarter to a half-mile visibility in parts of Trinity County this morning. There still could be the case here this morning as well. Western Siskiyou also seeing the potential for some of that fog, but not so much out along the coast, although fairly calm winds right now in Eureka and Crescent City about 7 miles per hour. So there's the visibility, right? You see, you're down to about a mile visibility in Weaverville, maybe even a little bit less than that. I'd say that there is some low visibility, especially in some of the valleys, although we did see Scott Valley clear of fog this morning. So, right, so it looks like it's a little bit better up there. But otherwise, pretty good visibility across the board. All right, so we take a look at the forecast winds, and yes, they're a little gusty this morning, and I think the strongest winds will be through the morning hours, and then through the afternoon, the winds will start to subside. But still a little breezy even going into the overnight hours, especially for the foothills and mountains just east of the valley. But by Thursday afternoon, those winds should start to kind of calm down again. And I do think that by Friday morning, we could be talking about the potential for a little bit more fog. Nothing to the extreme that we saw last week or this past weekend, but yeah, still have potential for a little bit of fog. Now, I was talking about that ridge of high pressure, dirty ridge of high pressure. Typically high pressure, we talk about what? Sunny skies, right? So you have the high pressure right here, the flow around that. Here's the ridge. We talk about a ridge. That's that arc right here. So the clouds are moving up and over that ridge, but then the flow around that is right on top of Northern California. And that's why we're seeing the clouds. It's not bringing us any rainfall. The air is just too stable for that, but it is giving us some clouds. And with a little bit of a low, see this low pressure system right here spinning? That's what we were talking about. That right there is that inside slider I was talking about the last few days. It originated over Canada, right? And it's just kind of been sliding down to the south and east. There's that area of low pressure. Now, to offset that, and one of the reasons why we're seeing the winds pick up is that high pressure is to the west. So what happens is it kind of funnels down that north wind here, and it really funnels down and really makes for some gusty winds at times. This is not a major wind event, folks, but you'll notice the wind's kind of picking up, and really the key factor is the fact that it's helping to prevent that fog development. But these are isobars. We call them isobars, and when they're tightly packed like that, that's where you see the stronger winds. When they spread apart, the winds are not quite as strong. So again, you can see it's just really amplified right there over Northern California, hence the gusty north winds that we will see, especially this morning. But as that low pressure moves off to the east, those winds will start to die down. All right, let's take a look at Futurecast and talk about our chances for rain now, because there is going to be a better chance for rain later this week. Not necessarily today, not necessarily tomorrow. You can see just a few clouds coming in here for your Thursday. A little bit of rain, though, showing up to our north and some snow, but nothing significant, right? A little bit more of a significant system coming through on Friday, but to our north. You see all the rain there in southern Oregon? But you see what's happening? This is normal. This happens to us a lot. We see these storms move through the Pacific Northwest. They hit into Oregon. You see a lot of rain, and it just clips Northern California. And it's that high pressure I was talking about. That high pressure, as long as it's there, that's going to be a big hindrance for these storms to really come in. They're having a hard time doing it. And that's why it's just clipping. And so really the overall placement of all of this it's tricky because it depends on how strong that ridge is and how much it gives way. But midday, afternoon, Friday, it is showing a little bit of activity for the North Coast, Siskiyou and Modoc County. Is this anything to write home about? No. Probably won't even see much in the way of measurable rainfall. Maybe a little bit of measurable rainfall Friday afternoon for parts of the North Coast, especially for Del Norte, Northern Humboldt. And then you can see it just continually feeds into at least the North Coast. But check this out. By Friday night to Saturday morning, 8 a.m., you see a little bit of green here in parts of the valley. Now here's the thing. This right here is most likely what we call Virgo. That's rain that evaporates before it reaches the ground. If you see a stray sprinkle late Friday night, early Saturday morning for parts of, say, Redding, maybe Red Bluff, don't be surprised. It's not going to be anything significant. It's not going to be anything to cancel the outdoor plans over, but you can see better chance for measurable rainfall for the North Coast, Trinity County, Siskiyou, and Modoc County. But everywhere else, I do think it's going to be drier. But you can see through the day on Saturday, you see how it's just kind of clipping Northern California. Most of it's up to the north. By the way, seeing some snow out towards the Warner Mountains there. Don't think it's going to be quite low enough for us to see snow on Cedar Pass, but something worth watching. But there it is, Saturday, 5 p.m. This is what I've been talking about all week so far. Trinity, the North Coast, Siskiyou, Modoc County, all seeing that best potential for any shower activity through the day on Saturday. This is going to be the best chance for measurable rainfall, I think, for the areas I just mentioned for Friday night through the day on Saturday. But then look at Sunday. See what's happening? So Sunday morning, I think this only goes out to about 5 a.m. Sunday, but you can see some of the rain that we're still seeing for the North Coast. High pressure is going to start to build back in through the day on Sunday. And what that's going to do is push any rain that's trying to move in back up to our north. And will probably be drier on Sunday across the board, and then that'll continue into Monday of next week as well. So I just wanted to show you this to show where the best potential for rain is. And you can see here, Del Norte, Humboldt, Trinity, Siskiyou, Modoc, and maybe even parts of northern Shasta County. Dunsmuir, for example, Lakehead. And this is why, again, maybe a stray sprinkle. This is just showing where the measurable rainfall is, right? We can't rule out maybe a stray sprinkle here, maybe a stray sprinkle off to the east here, but nothing really measurable, right? And even if it's measurable, it's nothing significant. This darker green is only about 1/4 of an inch of rainfall. And I think that might be overdoing it as well, but we'll see. But this is kind of a footprint of where we expect the best chances for that rain Friday, especially Friday afternoon, Saturday, and then by Sunday afternoon, that all pretty much kicks on out of here to the north. There it is, Sunday, right? Here's that ridge of high pressure. See the rain mainly up to our north. This high pressure is still going to be a fairly dominant feature on Monday, so that storm system stays to our north. However, we see that ridge give way a little bit here by Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. That could bring us another potential for another system that'll just clip Northern California, but not necessarily move through, right? It's mainly moving through the Pacific Northwest. So really, bottom line is this. We're not expecting a lot of rainfall, folks, through most likely all of next week. Now we look at the precipitation outlook. This is just an outlook, a general idea of coming in from the Climate Prediction Center, and I think this is a pretty good representation. I think we're going to be drier than normal over Northern California over the next 10 days or so. Wetter than normal up to the north. That's where the rain is, right? And some of those systems clipping Northern California. Now, with that said, high pressure is in place. It's going to keep our temperatures above normal as well. In fact, take a look at that 10-day trend. The normal high for Reading is 58 degrees. That's where that line is. We're mainly above that for the next 10 days. In fact, we're going to average out, especially once we do get to the end of the week, through the weekend next week, mid-60s on average, give or take. So it's going to be temperature-wise gorgeous, but rain-wise not so gorgeous, right? We want to start seeing that rain. This is the wet season, folks. We need the rain. But here's the thing. Don't get too concerned just yet. Don't think doomsday just yet. I know it's a dry start to the season. I know that. Although we did see some decent rain the previous month, right? But it's fairly dry right now, and we don't like to see that in December. However, we've got a long way to go. I mean, we got the end of December. We've got January, February, March. Not all hope is lost just yet. We've got some time. All right, take a look at the lake levels, and there you can see 100 to over 100% for those historical averages. So again, we're looking good. We could be better, but we're looking good. Wave heights are still fairly high for today, but they are dropping as we go into your Thursday, so that's good. But eventually, as those king tides start to kick in Thursday into Friday, we'll have to kind of watch for those coastal flood advisories continuing. Small craft advisory here for today. All right, let's take a look at that neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. By the way, I didn't show you the graphic there, but there is that coastal flood advisory for central northern Humboldt County until 11 o'clock this morning. There could be some of those low-lying areas, some flooding along the coast. Just be aware of that. All right, here's Trinity County. So we're going to take a look at the 7-day forecast, and I'm going to talk about this right now. You can see on Saturday, that's the best chance for measurable rainfall. On either side of that, there may be some light showers. And then maybe Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. We take it down to the south, 54 degrees for High and Palm, 56 degrees for Hayfork, 51 out in Wildwood and Mad River, about 52. Take you out to the north coast and southern Humboldt County. I'd say, yeah, maybe a chance on Saturday, but chances outside of that, southern Humboldt County, slimmer chances, right? As you head north, I think we got better chances. Friday, maybe Sunday, maybe again on Tuesday, right? So again, these systems are just clipping Northern California and the North Coast, and that's why we got those chances in there. But as I've mentioned, you know, for everyone that has the chance for rain, Saturday's the day. Really, Friday night into Saturday is the time frame that we're going to see the best chance for measurable rainfall. But I'd say like Del Norte County, for example, you got the potential for measurable rainfall Friday, Saturday, maybe even into Sunday morning. And that's where I think we're going to see the most amount of rainfall. Siskiyou County, you got a chance for showers here as early as Friday, better chance for measurable rainfall Saturday, maybe lingering showers Sunday morning, and then maybe another chance Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. Scott Valley, cold today, only reaching the mid-40s for your daytime highs, but you're not starting off with that fog this morning. We saw that on the camera. Looks like things are clear for you this morning. 42 degrees out in Weed, 47 out in Mount Shasta City, 39 degrees out in Tule Lake. We take you out to Modoc County, where, yes, you've also got the chance for showers basically north of the valley. That's where you got the best chance for that rain here as early as Friday, better chances on Saturday. Eastern Mountains, yeah, Bernie, I've got your chance there on Saturday because I do think northeastern Shasta County could be looking at the potential for some wet weather. However, you take a look at places like Lassen Park and Chester, you're going to hold off until about Saturday before you really start seeing any chances for rain there. Eastern Mountains out towards Susanville, about 44 degrees, 41 degrees for Doyle today, and Paradise, 56 degrees. Valley to the south, there you can see temperatures in the upper 50s. Yeah, upper 50s. That cloud cover, that's going to keep those temperatures down a little bit here. Looking at your 7-day forecast for Chico, we got those temperatures around 60 for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, low to possibly mid-60s by Monday and Tuesday of next week. Up north, a high of about 60 degrees for the city of Shasta Lake, 60 for Reading and Palo Cedro. Also the case for Anderson County, just kind of that broad brush forecast. Upper 50s for Whiskeytown and Lakehead. All right, here's your 7-day forecast for Reading. It's about 60 today and tomorrow. I mean, again, it's a little bit of that nip in the air. That's really all you're looking at here. Mid-60s on Friday, and then looks like low 60s by the time you do get to Saturday. Sunday, 64, 67 on Monday. No rain, although Saturday, if you see a sprinkle in Reading, don't be surprised. That certainly could happen, so that's something worth watching. All right, that is going to do it for our forecast. I didn't shave this morning at least, right? Oh, by the way, just kind of a heads up. So I am leaving on a flight tomorrow morning. I'm still going to be providing you the morning update at 6 a.m. I'm not going to be able to do Coffee with Krueger live because I'm going to need to be on the road to get on my flight. But Chase Wilson will be filling in for me at noon. and 6 p.m. tomorrow. He'll be doing all 3 shows on Friday, but I should have Wi-Fi on Friday morning and should be able to give at least Coffee with Krueger for you. So I'm anticipating doing Coffee with Krueger from where I'm going to be, which is in Tennessee. There's a digital meteorology conference. Basically, it's put on by National Weather Network, which is what I'm a part of, and it's turning into be a big event for people who are wanting to do what I'm doing all across the nation. It's happening, folks. It is growing, growing, growing. We as a national network are growing, and this conference is what helps to kind of motivate people, get more people on board, and see what we're all about and what we're doing. And if you like what we're doing, then other people across the nation can enjoy it as well. Let's see here. Sound is on a loop. Had to reload. Interesting. Just kind of checking with some of you this morning, see what's going on here. So we have got Lisa Strickland saying good morning. This is where Debbie Castro, you said sound is on a loop. Yeah, like you said, you did a reload. Yeah, maybe just a reboot. Maybe it gets stuck on something, not sure. And then Debbie is saying, friends in North Argentina had a lot of rain. Does their spring affect our fall weather at all? I'd have to do a little research on that. Can't honestly say if I know either way. Again, I have to take a look at that. Interesting, though. It's kind of interesting. You think about like where we are and then somewhere across the, halfway across the world, it's a completely different story, right? We've got Don Venturi saying good morning. Good morning to you. And I love seeing some of these new names. Nice to see you, Don. And we got Krista, one of our regulars. She's saying, Debbie Castro, I've been having the same problem trying to get Facebook Live to load. And it just keeps looping every few... I have to go out and back in. Oh, that's interesting. Well, hopefully that's nothing on my side. Maybe that's a Facebook issue. I hope. But... I'll have to talk to some of my buddies and see if they're having that same issue as well. But I love hearing your reports and see what's going on and all that good stuff. Well, that's going to do it for us this morning. We're going to leave you with a couple of cameras and see what's going on there. And it looks like we've got some pretty good stuff going on with those cameras. Oh, I'm going to take you right there. There it is. Ooh, gorgeous. There's a look at the crags. You can kind of see. I forget which. That might be Dunsmuir down below there. I'd have to double check on the Soda Ridge camera, but that is gorgeous. You look off to the right there, and there's some snow on that peak there. Beautiful. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Hope you have a great Wednesday. I won't see you tomorrow morning on Coffee with Krueger, but I will hopefully see you on Friday. Until then, have a great Wednesday.